Y'all in the winning circle, shot some squares though. You in the killing fields, ignoring the scarecrows. Yeah, ho, I'm Benny Blanco in the last scene, making the power play high off for caffeine. This is a tag team, fantasy the bad dream. The male version of Carrie killing the class queen. Bati bloggers quit dodging my emails. Take that whack shit off, the real prevail.
Welcome to FREELUNCH Podcast, home of the New South Movement and the New South Movement Network. This is your boy Tight, one half of the FREELUNCH Podcast duo, BG's. We back at it, hashtag never not working.
You know what it is, man, BG the 27 kid. Man, it used to be a time when we would do this thing maybe once a week or so, but the thing has grown so big we in the studio daily. But I love it, man. I love what's happening right now, so I ain't got no complaint.
It is. And you know what else that I get excited about, BG?
What that is?
I get excited because I've started back to listen to the Steve Harvey Morning Show. They discontinued Tom Joyner. But every morning when Steve starts his radio show, he always starts off, I got a radio show. And I'm going to start this podcast the same way. BG, guess what?
What?
Man, we got a podcast.
And not only that, we got a podcast network.
We got it
growing every day.
Growing every day. The South's hottest podcast duo, the South's hottest podcast network. And I look forward to every opportunity we get to really use this platform as a platform, not only to interview individuals about their story, about what they're doing, but in today's show, we get an opportunity to actually learn about an organization that I kind of fell upon. It was one of them things that I was out and about in D.C. Through social media, was notified of an event, attended the event, and lo and behold, I fell upon this organization, and I definitely felt like after visiting, experiencing that event and visiting that event, this would be the perfect platform to have their organization represented on this show.
And that's the blessing of this whole thing is like when we come across things that need to be highlighted and need to be introduced to our family, we can jump right on it. And then we've also been fortunate enough to have people that are so committed to their causes that they are willing to come on and share it with the people. You know, we closing that gap on information and resource. You know, I think there was once a time where it was so hard to get access to certain information, but taking advantage of this podcast and the internet and social media, we're able to bring this thing together and really push these positive movements forward.
Again, it was social media. BG, the event that I was attending that I just mentioned earlier, it was actually social media that kind of informed me, was following Brother Jeff Johnson, and saw that he was going to be the moderator of a panel that was going to be at the museum here in D.C. So decided I actually forwarded the flyer to my neighbor, and he and I rode out there together. And when we got there, had no idea exactly what we were going to be rolling up on. And when we got there, we just saw a lot of guys with these shirts that said "Be Me," capital B, capital M, me. And so seeing that, a lot of brothers dressed in these shirts, started talking to them, trying to learn a little bit more about the shirts, why they were wearing those. And lo and behold, I learned and familiarized myself with the BMe community. And today, we have the opportunity to talk with the managing director of the BMe community, Brother Benjamin Evans. He's an entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in public relations, government relations, nonprofit organizational development, philanthropy, known for being strategic leader for creating and implementing innovative professional development, youth enrichment, and community development programs. So when you get an opportunity to talk with someone like this, BG, especially during this day and age with the police brutality, you get an opportunity to talk to the brothers of BMe community. Hopefully they can shed some light on what they're doing, But it's a bright spot when you have other stories outside of the ones we see in the local news and the local media. So no further ado, I'd like to introduce our audience to Benjamin Evans, who is also a FAMU graduate. So shout out to all the HBCUs out there. Ben, how you doing?
I'm well. Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here. And I got to go back and pay that person who wrote that bio a little bit more. They made me sound so good.
Always pay those that speak highly of you. Make sure they're taken care of for sure.
I think that was a personal written bio, though, right?
Yes, it was.
So you'll be paying yourself in return. So how things going today?
I am in Miami.
And your Instagram lets us know that every weekend. So I was gonna bring that up and let the audience know we do follow you on Instagram, and as I mentioned earlier, your Instagram page definitely reminds us weekly that you are enjoying the sun and you are enjoying the nice weather that's currently taking place in Miami. How are things in Miami?
We just had a great community forum that went live on ABC here. And then this week, I'm prepping for the South Florida Youth Summit. Actually, Brother Jeff Johnson will be down here being our keynote for our Sunday Founders celebration. We're celebrating 10 years of Lead Nation, which was a organization founded by a good friend of mine, Representative Chevron Jones, in the living room in college at Florida A&M, and has moved all the way to South Florida. Thousands of youth go through the program and attend the conference. It's over like 3 days, and I'm the past chair. So it's going to be a great event. So I'm all psyched and getting ready to celebrate that this week.
Let's talk about BMe community, and it's not anything that I was aware of. Had I not seen that Instagram post by Jeff Johnson, then I would have never heard or known about what you guys are doing. For our audience who may not be familiar, and like I mentioned earlier, we are a Southern-based podcast, which outside of Miami, I don't think you guys have any affiliates in the Southern area, do you?
Outside of Miami, no. We are a national network of community builders that are led by Black men. Founded in 20. It started as a project of the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation here in Miami, but we got kicked off in Philadelphia and Detroit. And then we moved on to Baltimore through the Open Society Foundation, and then moved to Pittsburgh through the Heinz Endowment. And now the Keenan Trust has brought us on to South Florida. So we're excited to be kicked off in Miami this year officially.
So Ben, BG and I are both Omegas. We both pledged that we're actually at Lime Brothers, and we both pledged at Auburn University. So BG, when I kind of came across this group of men, it was interesting because they had a wide range of men that were active participants in BMe. Brothers of Omega Psi Phi, some Kappas are also members. And so I started to talk to these men and really started to learn more and more, not only about the organization, but just about even the selection process and the quality of men that are in this organization. Ben, if you don't mind, can you kind of just talk about the different cities and how you guys even come about with members, selection, et cetera?
The Knight Foundation, Travian Shorters was vice president of the Knight Foundation, and we went out to Detroit and Philly with these flip. I don't know if you remember years ago, the flip cameras. It was you just flip it open and hit the red button and you start recording.
Right.
And went out with the notion that Black men were not engaged. Black men were not engaged. So we went out expecting to get maybe a couple hundred videos of Black men talking about what they do to build community. Well, came back the first year with 3,000 videos of Black men talking about what they do every day to give back to their community. And the reason why many folks are not connected to these black men because we're not subscribed to the normal channels of mentoring and volunteering and giving back. We're not at, volunteer.org. We're not with the Boys and Girls Club. We're not with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, but we're out there doing our own thing to strengthen our own community and just not subscribed to the normal channels of giving back. So the mission changed from finding engaged black men to telling the true narrative of black men. And the next year, we not only asked, what are you doing to build your community? We said, if we gave you funding, what would you do to continue to build your community? And the surprising thing is black men cared about the same things everybody else cared about. There was nothing unique, nothing different, nothing special. We want a healthy environment. We want safe streets. We want a good education for our kids. We want a strong economy. And we wanted the opportunity to better our families and our communities. And so these are issues that everybody cares about. And so then we gave away funding that year in Philadelphia and Detroit. And Trabian Shorters rolled out in 2013 and created BMe Community to be its own entity.
I was having this discussion earlier, is about the narrative and being in control of it. We know this. We know that there are black men that are serving in the positions as educators, coaches. They're involved in the youth lives, being mentors and leaders, but you don't get a whole lot of publicity to highlight that. The narrative is always constructed around black men not being involved or being apathetic to what's going on in our communities. And so that's important. But you got a background, you've got a pretty extensive business background. What was it that actually drew you to becoming a part of the BMe team?
Well, I believe in the divine. I believe in, your life lining up to purpose. And so I've always, in whatever capacity I served in, always served in a service capacity, a helping people capacity. And so I left a career in accounting, was with a pretty popular firm, and left that firm and started working on my own and doing community work. And I put together this community forum and debate for a local election here in Miami. Well, I was new to Miami and people were trying to figure out who's this guy and how's he doing this and, who does he know and who's he connected to. And it was a couple of good friends who helped me pull that off. And we came together, really had an impact on the community. And when the search committee was looking for managing director, when they were rolling out BMe, they reached out to me first to see if I knew of a communications person, didn't know. And I said I'd let them know. Then they said, we're looking for a managing director. We think you'd be great. You should look into it. I'm like, well, I'm kind of not interested. I just started my own business, and I'm really trying to get that off the ground. They said, listen, when you read it, you're going to be interested. I read what BMe was all about. I'm like, man, I do this for free. And on the back of all of our business cards are images of black men just doing things in the community. Very, nice, lively, active images, and each image comes with a story. So when we hand out our cards, we can tell a story. And after I finish interviewing with the CEO, he hands me his business card, and on the back of his business card is a mentor of mine from Philadelphia, because I'm originally from Philly. And when he gave me the card, chills just, came through my body. I'm like, why is Jeff on the back of your business card? And he's like, oh, he's worked with us in Philly, et cetera, et cetera. And so from then on, I knew that this is where I was supposed to be. And 3 years later, I'm still here, and we're doing just amazing things around the country. So it's just been all exciting. So that's how I got connected. Wasn't looking for it. Destiny just put the two of us in the same lane.
The event that I actually attended, the Reach 40, can you just kind of share with our audience that particular event? And BG, when I tell you it was amazing, it was really an event on leadership. It really was an event on succeeding. But can you talk about that weekend and give the audience kind of a sense of what you guys actually do?
Yep. So again, we're a national network of community builders that are led by Black men. We celebrate the achievements of Black men that contribute to the well-being of our society on issues we all care about. As I mentioned earlier, healthier environments, safer streets, good schools, strong economy. And the chairman of our board, Ben Jealous, says that children can't imitate what they don't see. And so we have a book out called Reach, 40 Black Men Speaking on Living, Leading, and Succeeding. Russell Simmons did the foreword. The president of Morehouse did the afterword. John Legend's in there, Al Sharpton, Isaiah Thomas, Louis Gossett Jr., and a whole bunch of folks you know and don't know who work every day to build community. And so these stories are 6 pages front and back each, digestible, and we became a Washington Post bestseller, New York Times bestseller in a matter of months. Thousands of books have been purchased and put in the hands of youth and young folks, put in the hands of college students, but also put in the hands of people who appreciate these stories of Black men, famous and not famous, talking about either their struggle, how they got to where they are, why they give back. And so we've been on tour since last year, going from city to city, discussing the role of Black men in America and how we've successfully given back to build this country every day. And so this tour and this event highlights the true narrative of what Black men do every day to give back to their community. And so we talked about a number of issues ranging from business, creating wealth, education, the sciences, family, manhood, taking care of our cities, taking care of our families. So these events are just meant to spark dialogue about what's going on locally, about how Black men are giving back to that city. And so when we were in D.C., we were at our national orientation where we flew over 100 Black men who we've awarded, who we call BMe leaders, and these guys are awarded for their authenticity and their commitment to give back to their community and what they're doing in their community. And we come together like a brotherhood and talk and laugh and cry and talk about our health and talk about our families and talk about, building wealth and building businesses and vision. And so this Reach event was a part of that, and we just had a wonderful time.
Not only did I attend, but I invited my neighbor, and then also I text a colleague, a coworker of mine, to let him know I was attending, not knowing what I was about to step into. But the panel discussion that was kind of moderated again by Jeff Johnson, they really got into leadership, the issues, and the things that we as Black men, what we're doing, that doesn't get told, but also discuss some of the issues that we may see as Black men. It was a great panel discussion. Ben, I would like to ask you, with the current political climate, has BMe community taken a stand on any of the political issues that we're facing, or have you all endorsed any particular candidate? What have you all done from a political perspective?
So not only have we taken a stand, but our message has been interwoven into the campaigns of a few of the candidates, and that's building a caring and prosperous community for everybody. And so that's what we stand on. We have 4 ideals that we stand on. One is we value every person in the human family. We present Black men as assets. We denigrate any language that pits one person against the other, one group against the other, and we work in asset-oriented ways to build communities. Now, we have not endorsed any particular candidate, but I can tell you, based on our ideals, you can tell who we're not supporting.
Let's talk about those issues too. The organization history around 2011 is the origin, and in that 5-year span, we've seen a lot of issues in our community come to the forefront: closing of schools, water toxicity in Flint, Michigan, numerous incidents where people have died in police custody. How have those issues impacted the BMe organization? Has it ignited or been like a catalyst to some of the initiatives and some of the energy that the organization has put forth in the last few years?
Well, BMe is based on asset-based community building and asset framing. And so we have been a shining light on a lot of these issues, and that we focus on the assets of our community, how to build assets. But we also tell a story of an America that, one, works for everybody, and two, values everybody. But as we shed light on that America that we're trying to build, we also shed light on an America that is still in play. And millennials, especially being the biggest generation of our time right now coming into power, having the influence and the power to shift that. So the old narrative, the boomer narrative, which is causing a lot of the issues that we see at play, there's always a war on something. A war on poverty, a war on drugs, a war on education, a war on, there was wars. And so people have come to build communities based on crisis mode and crisis narrative. Mm-hmm. Whereas our millennial narrative in the future of America, we are builders. We're not trying to fix something to where it used to be. We're trying to build a new America that is more inclusive, that is more loving, that is more open. And with technology linking us, and with technology breaking the barriers of disconnect between communities, with technology being the saving grace in some of these issues that we're dealing with, had it not been, for the ACLU, had it not been for the reporter, had it not been for videos, we would have not known about Flint. Had it not been for videos, we would not be in the street, marching for justice. So BMe kind of sheds light on these issues as we talk about building a prosperous America and what that looks like versus building an America that is divisive. If you're winning, then I'm losing. I'm paying now to take care of the poor with my taxes, and we want our America back, and we want America great again. All those things divide us and do not contribute to the America that is coming, whether people like it or not. In about 20, 30 years, America will no longer be majority Caucasian. It'll be Hispanic, then Black, and Caucasian. And so a lot of people are trying to hold on to, people say we want our America back, we want it great again. Tell me what year was great. Tell me, was it the 60s? No. Was it the 50s? Or was it the 1800s when we was on the cotton fields? Which year was great? What are we trying to go back to?
Great question.
So people are trying to hold on to what was when they were essentially superior. But we're trying to grow and build an America that works for everybody, where everybody can prosper, where everybody has the opportunity to truly go after the American dream, where we're truly living under the Constitution that is for all and not just for some.
Can you talk about some of the upcoming programs and some of the things that you are doing to attract the millennium generation and kind of influence them?
Yeah, so since the beginning of the year, we have been millennial focused. We've worked with Harvard in helping us develop a plan to reach to millennials. We worked with Ogilvy and Mather to help us develop a communications strategy that speaks to the heart and minds of people and pushes movements. And one of the things that we noticed in our research is that millennials really are not as divisive as former generations. We passed the same marriage equality. We've elected our first black president in huge numbers. I mean, we're moving towards a country that's open to everybody. So one of the things we've done is this year we're going on a college tour with our book Reach. Last year we did a tour in different cities. This year we already kicked off at Philander and Smith in Little Rock this year, and we have a number of schools we're hitting in the fall. Philander, Smith, thanks to the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, purchased 500 books to give to their students. Morehouse purchased 800 books to give to their students to be a part of their curriculum. So we're really hitting the college campuses. We had an event in Washington, D.C. last year ahead of the Million Man March, Justice or Else, and we really wanted to reach out to millennials through art and present our message through art. And then this year we have right now going on till June something called Notice to POTUS. And we're asking folks ages 14 to 24 to write a letter to the next president. And there are 3 prizes. First prize is $1,000, second prize is $750, third prize is $500. And everyone can go to noticetopotus.com. That's NOTICE, the number 2, and then POTUS, POTUS. POTUS stands for President of the United States. Noticetopotus.com, and get all the information. And the first place winner, we're going to fly to New York to take part in a conversation we're having in the fall at NYU. But we're trying to, everybody's interested, everyone we talk to, whether civically, corporately, or in the nonprofit space, are interested in the millennial voice. Because the millennial voice will be taking power in the next couple of years and will shape the culture of our generation and shape the culture of America's future. So everyone we're talking to is interested in the millennial voice, and we are asking millennials to write in to the next president, and we're going to put all the letters, bind them into a book, and present them to the final 2 candidates who will be running for president. And so we want to connect to what millennials think the future looks like for America, and then what issues we need to tackle in order to make a prosperous future for them. And lastly, we already surveyed some millennials, and most millennials and most students in the 14 to 24 range are really concerned about quality education and jobs for the future. Many get their degrees and can't find a job. Many don't feel that college education was for them, or college education prepared them for the future and prepared them for the workforce. And so companies are also interested in this new workforce coming and feeling that they are unprepared. So those are the main issues when we surveyed millennials that came to the top was quality education, jobs, and then opportunities for folks who are not interested in going to college.
You said something interesting there, and I kind of want to stay there for a minute. And even in corporate America, where I kind of where I work every day on a daily basis, there's been a lot of conversation around the millennials and how that new generation and how that generation is different from the baby boomer generation. And some of the things you mentioned were also found in studies that are done by consulting firms concerning the millennium generation. But you struck a nerve with me because I communicated, basically I was speaking to a group of young folks at a prestigious high school here in D.C., and I gave similar metrics as far as what you recently discussed around them being more willing to work in diverse locations, and some of the other statistics you mentioned that you all captured from Harvard. That was literally a week before the Oklahoma City, I'm sorry, not Oklahoma City, but the University of Oklahoma University, where they saw the young people on the bus. It was a group of white fraternity guys. I forget the event, but they were basically, they had turned, they were caught saying some racial slurs and singing a racial.
Yes, singing the song or something like that.
Yeah, singing the racial song. I guess.
I want you to think about the state you just said.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Okay.
But from your perspective, and again, after I had basically communicated the exact same kind of story that you told here a few minutes ago, a week later, this event kind of happened. So I kind of got a little discouraged and was wondering if what I had been reading and studying was accurate.
I believe it is absolutely accurate, and I think for the number of people who are still stuck in the past, there are tons more people who are onward looking. And I'll give you examples, in our own community. They talk about, that one incident was on the news over and over. But they won't show you incidents of, different races coming and working together to build. Those are not on the news over and over. I just wrote an article for the Miami Herald, and I talked about there was an article in the New York Times a while back last year that said 1.5 million missing black men, and that article was on the news for about 2 weeks. And commentators had a field day talking about problems in the urban community due to all the missing black men and, black men this, black men not in the home, black men in jail. I mean, it just went on and on. A couple of months later, the very same paper did another article which was based on a report that was released by the Center for Disease Control, and that said 2.5 million black men are present in the home of their family. That article didn't get any attention. The article was not on the headline news for 2 weeks. And it spoke to the kind of condition of our, media. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. And so just because it's centered in the media doesn't mean that that is a full representation of our community.
Personal opinion, why do you think the mass media, popular media, fails to deliver the true narrative?
So it's not a matter of them failing to deliver the true narrative. The media is a business. And, you have to go with what works and what is bringing views to your station or people to pick up the paper and read it. But I even think that is a false narrative, because I was having a conversation with a newspaper publisher, and they talked about the many calls that they get where people don't even want the paper anymore because it's too much bad news. They just want the coupons. Wow. And so people want to hear positive stories. That's why, although the newspaper business is declining, community papers are on the rise, because in the community paper you can read about, the little girl who got straight A's, or the little guy who won all the sports awards, or the local guy, so community papers are on the rise, and big city papers are struggling because people are tired of reading and hearing about bad news all the time. So I even think that narrative is false. But I also personally believe that our communities are impacted and shaped and influenced and manipulated by those at the top, by the stories that are focused on. The story you tell becomes a life that you live. I actually was just writing another article today in that if you continually put on the news articles and stories that paint our kids as monsters, that's what people are going to believe about them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if you flip that and put on the news the story of the kid who got straight A's, or the story of the kid who got 10 scholarships, or the story of the kid who racked up $1.5 million in scholarships just recently, then we'll see a shift and change in our community.
Outside of the books, Reach book and the notice to POTUS that you're putting out, how does BMe community market and share their news with what they're doing on a larger scale? Because to your point, I would agree that we have to find ways to kind of change the narrative that's being told. how are you guys kind of targeting that and not being so much of a light that shines within your own community, but being that light that sits on the hill and shines for the masses?
I heard a saying, which is so true: if you are not at the table, that means you're on the menu.
Yeah.
And so it is all about being in control of your own story, being in control of your own narrative, and telling the story your way. And so we work with a number of partners. Last year, I'll give you a couple examples, and one I'm really excited about, but we did a campaign last year called #BlackMenLove. And it was to connect the words black men and love. I mean, you can connect the words black men to so many other things that are negative. And so we wanted to connect black men with a positive word. And black men wrote articles and submitted them to us about the things that they loved and committed to, whether it was education, fatherhood, family, business, creating creating a future that is prosperous for their children. And we partnered with a whole slew of media outlets to help us tell this story our way. Black Enterprise, The Root, NBC Black, Huffington Post, our own website. A couple of organizations locally help get the stories out as well. And we partner with other organizations who are kind of doing the same work and who support us. The Campaign for Black Male Achievement, Highs Endowment, the Knight Foundation, Open Society Foundation, Skillman Foundation, Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation. And then we partner with a lot of governments. The mayor of Philadelphia was very supportive of the work that we're doing. The mayor of Pittsburgh is very supportive of the work we're doing. A couple councilmen in Detroit are very supportive of the work that we're doing. And then a lot of corporations. JP Morgan Chase is a huge supporter of what we're doing. Comcast. I can go on and on about companies who are interested in telling the true narrative and who invest also in helping us get this story out there. And this year we're really focused on video messaging and video storytelling. So there'll be a whole bunch of video stories that we have out. Again, partnering with The Root to help us get our story out. My Brother's Keeper, the White House, helping us to get stories out. But we've also we just revamped our website and created kind of like a Facebook/LinkedIn for community builders. So you go in, you create your profile, you connect with other people from around the country who are doing the same thing, and this is eventually going to lead to an app where people can connect in cities about what's going on. Everywhere we go, we always hear, wow, I didn't know that was going on, or wow, I didn't know that was happening, or you saying, if I didn't hear from social media, I would have never made this event. Well, we are trying to build connections around the country where people know what's going on, understand what the positive stories are, what positive role models and folks are doing to build community, and also what events are going on in the different cities that speak to what people are interested in. So people can go to bmecommunity.org and create their profile now. On the beta site, give us feedback on what they'd like to see as we build this connection platform for people who want to tell good stories, want to build prosperous communities, and want to connect with other people who do the same.
I just like the idea of being able to have this community and this true network set up that makes it easy for people to access and be up to date with what's going on and not have that excuse about not knowing, like Ben was saying. So that's perfect and definitely a great way to take advantage of what social media has become.
When is there going to be a southern Atlanta? Atlanta's a big region. Have there been talks of trying to open up other communities in other cities, maybe Atlanta or Charlotte or somewhere like that?
Yep, you mentioned two of the cities that are on our prospect list of places we'd like to go to. And of course, anything that's worth building takes time and money. And so we generally partner with local influencers in the city who are interested in bringing BMe there and are tied to the finances to bring us to a city. And that's how we usually get planted and grow. And so, just like I said, we were originally in Philly and Detroit thanks to the Knight Foundation. And then Open Society said, hey, we like what you're doing. Let's try you in Baltimore. And then the Heisen Endowment said, hey, we like what you're doing too. And they brought us to Pittsburgh. And then the Keenan Foundation said, hey, we like what you're doing. And we're trying to get into South Florida, and so here we are. And they're based in North Carolina as well. So you mentioned a couple of cities we're interested in moving to next. It does take some time to get there and build. We never want to go anywhere and not have the proper resources and the network to build and tell these stories. We are a network. We don't provide any programs or services. We might have a couple of campaign or initiatives to help tell stories, but we generally award guys who are providing programs and services for communities and who are doing things to strengthen the community and help tell their story. And so we like to go into a city already connected and network, like DC's another city of interest, and we've been there and we're networking with the leadership there to help us build and grow in that city.
Because you're a network, you have a lot of direct interaction with mentors in the different locations. Is there anything like that you could, I guess, share with us that might be common concerns that are coming from these mentors? Or is there things that they are just making note of that the kids that they're influencing may need or lack thereof?
There are no common concerns that I have heard. Mm-hmm. One thing that I've talked about with some in the past is just trying to get other folks engaged in what they're doing, and trying to get other people to get plugged in. All of us is greater than just some of us, and all of us is definitely greater than one of us. And so the more folks, a lot of people paint, kids as the issues of our community and put youth at the forefront of, it's them, it's what they're doing. Well, most of us sit back and say that from the comfort of our home. Our guys are out there in the trenches doing the work every day. And if more of us would get out there and be that listening ear for that young person. I wouldn't be where I am had it not been for all of the mentors, both male and female, in my life. Mm-hmm. Had they not been there growing up, in the streets of Philly, I don't know where I would be. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful because of them. And so the more that we get involved, the more that we get other people to get involved. It doesn't take much to listen. It doesn't take much to take somebody out. It's not expensive. Going to the park is free. Take some. So we're just most folks are looking for just more people to be engaged with actually going out and getting on the ground. Because again, this is a personal opinion. Us, we get our money and we go on to the suburbs.
Yeah.
Kids can't imitate what they don't see. And so we always do this, and most of us know the story of our demise more than we know the story of our success. We know how many people have dropped out of school. We know how many people in jail. We know how many people, hustling in the streets. We know all that. But we couldn't tell you couldn't tell me how many black millionaires there are in the United States. You couldn't tell me how many black millionaires there are around the world. Mm-hmm. And a study done, I think over 5-10 years ago, there were 110,000 black millionaires in the United States. Only about a few percent of them got their money from sports and entertainment, about 5,000. So if 5,000 got their money from sports and entertainment, that's, football, basketball, acting, all that, singing. What in the world did the other 100,000 do? Mm-hmm. And why aren't youth and young people aspiring to do that? It seems like that's the more profitable route outside of playing ball and singing a song and, being on TV. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people have become successful going that path, but it's usually a 1,000,000-to-1 ratio of somebody, actually achieving that success. And in actuality, I forget the brother's name. He was a good guy out of Atlanta. He went around interviewing millionaires, black millionaires, asking them how they got their wealth. Dr.
Dennis Kimbrough.
Yeah. Yeah, most black folks got their wealth through businesses and starting businesses and all of that. And so the more we can connect our kids, our focus this year is actually wealth building and wealth creation. And we're focusing on folks who are out there teaching about financial literacy, showing people how to create wealth outside of just, going to work, focusing on those who are creating businesses and creating means of income for communities. And there's so many guys out there I could just list who have wonderful ideas about, recycling the black dollar within the black community. If we were a country, I think we'd be the 17th or the 7th. There's a 7 in there somewhere. Largest country in the world.
It's
compared
17th.
With our money. We spend $2 trillion a year.
They spoke about that at the State of the Black Union a few years ago, that we would be, from a financial perspective, the 16th. It's the 17th richest country in the world. That's how much money we bring in as a community and as a group of people. And BG, I find this conversation interesting because this is the type of conversation that really can take place at a jubilee like in Selma. You don't have a lot of these stories and these type of conversations taking place, and I think that places like a Selma, where this message isn't being told, and even throughout the United States, there are a lot of places like Selma. But I was just thinking about the Jubilee will be a great place for stories like this to be told.
The millennial focus is different than the old guard's perspective. So things like this will happen. And I feel like it'll become a part of our day-to-day conversations as we start sharing and we network and people start seeing that, there are many people throughout the country that have the same view and the same vision. And I just believe that we'll be talking this type of language on a day-to-day basis in our community.
As we get close to wrapping up, Ben, when does the Notice to POTUS kick off, or has it already kicked off? And
it's already kicked off. Again, people can go to noticetopotus.com, Notice to POTUS, and it's already kicked off. The application link is open, and people can begin submitting their letters to the next president. And again, the grand prize is $1,000. Write a letter, and you get $1,000, age 14 to 24. And
not to even go into what each letter is saying, but can we get a sneak peek into the topics that are being discussed and that are being shared? Like, what are the millennials saying? What is that voice? What does that voice sound like?
That voice is full of optimism. That voice is full of hope. That voice is full of frustration and tired of that old narrative that is pulling us back. We're not so much focused on race. We're not so much focused, but the old guard, the folks that are in charge of the messaging, the folks that are in charge of the things that we read and see and view every day, are putting out these old messages. And that's why there's so many folks like yourself, folks like Blavity, folks like the New Tropic in Miami, who are just like, bunk it. I'm creating my own platform and I'm getting my own messaging out there. Forget what you're saying.
Exactly.
And so our topic areas are public school reform, college affordability, employment, police brutality, justice reform, Black Lives Matter, immigration, and national security.
But you know what I find interesting? Based on the poll numbers, Bernie Sanders, and I hate to get in politics, but Bernie Sanders has had the ear of the millennium generation from a Democratic perspective, and then Hillary Clinton has not. As we get closer to the to reaching that magic number that elects the candidate, which it appears it may be Hillary Clinton, or Secretary of State or Senator Hillary Clinton, how do we get her, if it is her, to take this book that's being put together and to hear the voice of those people that haven't supported her throughout the primary?
Again, I think if we start telling and demonstrating and getting other people to tell that same story, and my CEO always gives this example that like 2 or 3 people can literally storm and take over a mall, although it's probably illegal, especially, to cry like fire in a movie theater or something like that. But when we say is enough, when we stop supporting the normal, there are things the candidates are doing in this election that they never probably imagined they have to do, but they're doing them because the voice of the generation of today requires it. Having tweet chats and having forums and having to listen to Black Lives Matter. Probably never thought they'd be doing something like that.
No, I agree. I just wanted to make certain that, and then also just, I think the idea of Notice POTUS is brilliant. I like the idea. I hope we get young people to take advantage of this opportunity. Because I think it is a way to change the narrative, to change the direction of our country. Right. So I definitely think that the idea is brilliant, and we really need to get this idea into high schools, high school teachers, college teachers. I really encourage you to share this with your young people and with your students, because the more people that participate, the more opportunity we have in really trying to shape, especially during this day and age and this time period, with this being the political season, being able to shape the narrative and being able to shape the path forward for America. So I hope, my hope is that the young people take advantage of this opportunity and take it seriously. That you have the opportunity to speak to the potential POTUS. Take advantage of it.
My CEO says we repeat ourselves a lot because we don't know history. And oftentimes, me in my office, we're like shocked at certain things. He's like, oh, this happened before. And many of the movements in the United States have been led by young college students who had enough, banded together, and then the country just followed them. SNCC, a whole slew of other folks who were young and had a powerful voice and were stronger together, and they really shifted and changed our country.
I think that they have an opportunity to do that, and I really hope that the young people get involved, and I really hope that they take it seriously. I guess the second point I was going to make was that when you have the opportunity to speak to a presidential candidate, take it serious and ask the real questions. I kind of got disappointed at some of the questions and some of the tone that the Breakfast Club used here the other day with Hillary Clinton, because I felt like that was an opportunity for our voice. When I say our voice, I'm saying our age group and younger, millennials, etc., to have the ability to ask the questions that will affect them. And I felt like we didn't take that opportunity and time seriously. So I guess I'll say that for anyone that's going to participate, and even with the BMe community folks, use this as an opportunity to really take it seriously and to present a quality article that is going to address to the potential candidates that really speak to the issues that we're facing.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
It's been a great interview. I've been enlightened by being and what BMe is all about, and it, like I say, it makes me feel good to know that people are committed to doing this work and committed to bringing people together in a manner that allows us to share, to learn, but more than that, to help somebody else and to preserve and progress our communities. And some of that is the basis for what we do with this podcast. And the podcast network is creating a collective energy of those that are dedicated to pushing the culture forward in a positive direction. And so I'm just happy to know that there is something that exists that's linking mentors, that's encouraging people to be mentors and to take leadership roles in the space that they live in. So, Ben, I just want to say from me to you, thank you for what you're doing, and everybody, the staff over there at BMe, and keep pushing.
If you have candidates in the cities that we mentioned earlier, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Akron, Detroit, and if they were interested in the selection process, or signing up with you all, how would they go about doing that?
If people were interested in being BMe leaders?
Yes.
Oh, so each year we do a call for stories, and unfortunately our call for stories just ended March 31st. So we're actually in the process of reviewing candidates and selecting leaders, and we're going to celebrate those leaders again in DC, and I'll gladly get you an invite to one of our public events again in May.
I'll be there.
We're gonna be back in DC with over 100 black men, celebrating them and linking them and networking them. And again, I'll get you the info. But if you want to be a part and be connected and at least hear the next time we'll do a call for stories, you can visit us at bmecommunity.org. That's bmecommunity.org, and sign up, create a profile, and you'll be connected. We send out a newsletter once a month. We connect with folks via online live events. We're going to have the app in a few months, and just ways to connect. And the best thing to do is to be connected, so when it's time to do the call for stories, we know who you are. And
the second part of that was, this is an open platform, so if any of your 100 that are selected, or any stories that you would like to personally invite or have them on our, it's open invitation. Any of those guys can be on our platform, our show. We definitely want to use this platform as an opportunity to share those stories. So let's stay in contact. If like I said, if you have a name or you have a good candidate that you want to just throw our way, by any means, send them to us, and we'll definitely schedule time to get them on the show.
I know a bunch of candidates. I'll send them over to you.
Yeah, definitely. And then lastly, we have to change not only the path of where we're going on a national level, and we have that influence. But also, when we have the opportunity to talk to like a potential POTUS, let's just make certain, and this is me back on my soapbox, but make certain that the lead story coming out of that interview or that conversation isn't hot sauce in my bag. So I'll leave it at that. After Hillary Clinton left the interview with the Breakfast Club, the leading topic was that she carried hot sauce in her bag. So that was kind of, in my opinion, unfortunate, given that they had an opportunity, or we had an opportunity to really talk about issues that are plaguing our community. And I felt like we missed that mark when the lead story is that the senator carries hot sauce in her bag. So I'm off my.
Yep, and especially when we have platforms that can impact entire generations of folks, we ought to take it some point serious.
Anything else you want to leave with the folks? How can they? I guess they can go to bmecommunity.org. Any other ways that you want to lead with them?
And they can also connect with us on social media at bmecommunity.org. And really go on, get connected. We already have tons of people who have signed up already, and we haven't even done the unveiling of the site. It's still in beta mode, and I'm like, how are these people signing up? I asked our tech person, are they real? But yeah, this is a great organization that uplifts positive images, and it's for anybody, race, gender, background, to join. You don't have to be a black man to be a part of what we're doing.
BG, how can the people reach us?
We are the Free Lunch Podcast. Check for us, freelunchpodcast.com. Also on Instagram, Free Lunch Podcast. Twitter, Free Lunch Pod C. YouTube, Free Lunch TV. We are part of the New South Movement Podcast Network. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud. Just search New South Movement, and we'll be there.
Hey Ben, keep posting those pictures of you being in Miami while we deal with cold weathers. It's warming up now, but you definitely rubbed it in our face.
Well, I can't help it. I like to, give God praise by celebrating His creation.
Well said.
Well said. Well, thank you for your time, sir. We really appreciate it. This is well overdue, and I'm sure our audience will enjoy it. So thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
All right, we out of here.
All right.
Peace.